Fantasy Footballers Podcast with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
What is going on, everybody? It's Friday. It is Friday.
That's Rebecca Black's favorite day of the week.
Wow. I have forgotten that moment in time.
Never forget.
August 21st. We're back again. It is Friday. We just saw some preseason football.
Oh, yeah.
This is the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. I'm joined, as always, by Mike, the Fantasy Hitman Wright.
Greetings.
And Jason Moore, who has new glasses.
I have them thanks to my wife.
Hey, they look sharp.
They do look. You look pretty good.
They all look based on my
like
wife.
2 to 3% more trustworthy in all your fantasy advice right now.
I would agree with that.
Don't you think?
Right? Yeah.
I've been studying
we're
hard,
up to 10%.
obviously.
We're up to 10%. Welcome to the show. We got a good show for you today. We're talking our 1 through 20 tight end rankings. We're going to go over a bunch of news and notes, talk about the preseason games that took place last night and the ones that are heading into the weekend, the things we're looking for and we're paying attention to as you approach your fantasy drafts. I want to thank everybody for all the love on Twitter, on iTunes. Honestly, this show doesn't exist without you guys.
Yes, the Foot Clan. We are very appreciative.
It makes all the difference in the world, the support that you give us, the reviews, and the participation in the show.
Yeah, and let's be honest, you guys are the best. I mean, literally, I think of all the podcasts out there, you guys, if I know I'm known for tooting ourselves, but our listeners are truly awesome. Your guys' follow-through on things blows me away. Love it. Thank you.
And the incessant mocking and calling me the Fantasy Reaper this past week was pretty good.
That is stuck, my friend. That is stuck.
The only thing I was mad about is that you just threw Kelvin Benjamin in there just because I hated Benjamin before he got hurt.
No, because now every time someone gets hurt, it's your fault.
Yeah, doesn't matter.
It is funny. It is funny. Hey, quick question for you guys. I am afraid of drafting blank. Who are you afraid of drafting the most right now?
Right now, if I had a draft today, it would be LeSean McCoy. Because he's costing, a late first, early second, and I am not sold on the health of his knee. Whenever there's
his knee or his hamstring?
His hamstring. I'm optimistic that he'll be back by week 1. Says to me, there's a chance that he's got to miss games and that this thing comes back and lingers. We're still a couple of weeks away where he can re-aggravate it too. So my point is, I would be scared to take him.
He's a hard guy to draft right now. That's what that is, right?
Because
it's
you just don't
hard.
And you don't know, and it costs so much.
Don't you have another option? That's kind of what you'll say in the draft. Let somebody else draft him and take the chance.
Yeah,
and I like McCoy. I'm just afraid of.
I'm not high on Forte, but if I had those two next to each other in the draft, I would take Forte over LeSean McCoy today.
I understand that.
2 weeks from now, if he's back practicing, whatever.
So, Mike, I'm afraid of drafting.
I am afraid of drafting Joseph Randle. His ADP, as we've talked about, is creeping up. He's now in the third round, an unproven guy because of the upside in Dallas, and we're going to get to him in the news, but he has re-injured his oblique, and the news of the oft-injured Darren McFadden says he looks good in practice. This is a mess and a nightmare.
That's kind of the best word for it, right? A mess. It's hard to parse through. Somebody will make a draft pick that probably wins or loses a season based on Dallas's backfield.
Or wins and loses you half a season because they each take about a few games and are great. And
so
then
there's
they
a
get
chance
hurt.
No one's a fantasy winner in that draft situation. Is
very
what you're
much.
saying.
Or an unknown addition that's still coming.
I'm going to go with Jonathan Stewart because I'm afraid of drafting him because of the injury history and because of how high he's now going and because of the potential that I've now allowed to brew inside of my mind. Because I'm excited for what could be for Jonathan Stewart. What we see on film, what we have seen in the playoffs and the end of the season, and what the magical what can be that can destroy a fantasy season. So much like McCoy, I just don't know if when it comes to push to shove, I don't know if I'd take Stewart over another guy like Ingram in the same range.
That team really needs Jonathan Stewart now.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And it just speaks to what Jason has always said, where if Stewart goes down, I mean, Cameron Artis-Payne is the
major pain.
Is a super high upside running back potential type of handcuff.
Waka. Don't forget about Fozzie.
Yeah, he's good. And he might be on the field a lot more than we think simply because of wanting to keep the workload down on Stewart, and he was effective when he played. All right, so like I said, we got a lot of good news and information on today's show. We got our tight end rankings. If you want to follow us on Twitter, you can do so at the FF Ballers. You can go to the website, thefantasyfootballers.com. You can see our rankings as you get ready for the draft. You can download those. You can submit questions to the show. And there's articles and other news and information on the site. Be sure to check that out. Let's go ahead and talk some more news.
News and notes from around the league.
Well, I think the first thing I want to discuss in the news today is the emergence of Tyrod Taylor in
Interesting.
the swampland of quarterbacks in Buffalo, because Matt Castle and EJ Manuel are not the answer there, and so the team seems to be bending towards Taylor. There were reports that if he had a good game in yesterday's preseason game, that they might lock him in as a starter. He had a good game.
Yeah, and he had a good game without Sammy Watkins,
With nobody.
without Percy Harvin.
I think the top 5 wide receivers were gone.
top 5 running backs. I think the top,
And top
3 wide
three wide
receivers.
receivers.
Yeah, there you go. So, good game for him. He offers something different with the ability to run the ball the way he does.
Exactly. He runs the ball. He has that higher floor, the safer floor. If he can get anything done through the air and he gives you 40 yards a week,
That's huge.
That's interesting.
And he runs more like Russell Wilson. There were a couple plays where he'd get out of bounds, or there was one play where he kind of lowered his shoulder, which I was like, eeh. But he seems a little bit more conservative at the end of his runs than someone who's just going to throw himself out there for every extra yard and get injured and have it be irrelevant.
7 for 10 last night, 65 yards, rushed 4 times for 41 yards. He played well, especially with the weapons that he had around him. So if you're in a league that only drafts Buffalo Bills, he would be the quarterback I draft right now. Let's talk about Joseph Randle. Mike brought him up in Dallas. They're reporting he's doubtful for the preseason game due to an oblique injury.
An aggravated. So that he already had this injury and he has re-injured it. So
Just some news fuel to the fear in that backfield.
yeah, because we all know the upside is huge. We're not talking DeMarco Murray huge. So that's a clear note that people need to remember. Whoever gets the main workload, they're not getting 400 carries again.
Not a chance.
But the upside behind that line, they open up holes. We saw Randall, what was he, over 6 yards a carry? Because he would hit huge plays. And so whoever is getting that work, they're going to give you fantasy production, but it's such a fragile and changing situation. It's hard to really know what to do right now.
All right, I want to give you guys the opportunity to kind of throw a name out there from what you saw in last night's preseason games. I'm going to do that first and throw out Matt Jones. I was excited to see what Matt Jones did on the field because they seemed to like him a lot in camp in Washington, and he looked good. He looked really good. Matt Jones came out and he scored a touchdown. He had some big runs. And behind Alfred Morris, I mean, he's a guy you have to pay attention to. Morris is not signed through next year, and Morris doesn't offer you a lot in the passing game.
And he moved pretty good for a big guy.
Yeah, he did.
Some of his cuts and jukes for, I think he's like 230 something. He's a big boy. And I was pretty impressed with him. So what do you think about Alfred Morris then? Are we scared off of Alfred Morris at all that the numbers are going to be cut into, or are we plowing full steam ahead on him?
I guess the concern is growing, where I've been a huge Morris supporter. Right now, I'm still taking him where I would normally take him. I'm not letting one preseason Matt Jones game change that. But if let's watch week 3. Let's see what happens, and let's see what happens with that quarterback position.
Yeah, if you watched that game, the offensive line was so bad. I think he had 8 dropbacks, 6 times he was hit, 3 times he was sacked, and these weren't little hits. I don't know what he did. Like maybe he went to stunt school or something, but when he gets hit
He's a ragdoll.
when he gets hit by somebody, it's never a little hit. I've never seen RG3 go down and just it looks like he knows how to fall. Like no one taught him how to fall.
Did he go to stunt
It's
school?
the video game physics where the guys just.
Here's what I don't understand about the game and about the quarterback specifically is that I know RG3 is holding on to the ball a little bit too much, but if you watch the next man up, Colt McCoy, it wasn't the next quarter when everybody on the field changed. It was because of injury. So he literally comes into the exact same position, and for some reason he was able to hold on to the ball. Like, some of his plays, he held on and moved around in a pocket, and they had it. But RG3 was, blasted. Does the offensive line hate RG3? Or what?
It is a self-perpetuating problem with RG3 where he's been hit so many times, he's skittish in the pocket, he doesn't know how to move within the pocket, and he's not an NFL quarterback. I'm saying it right now. Breaking news.
Not only did Colt McCoy do better, he posted a perfect passer rating.
So you can't blame the O-line.
Not completely.
Certainly
not completely. But if you watch when RG3 was in there, you have to blame the O-line for getting beat man-on-man every single play. I mean, there is a lot of blame to go around.
Well, and, D-Jax wasn't out there and different people. So he is supposed to play. He got a concussion, but he might play next week. That's the report right now. So that my name was Matt Jones. I'm not really lowering Alfred Morris because of Matt Jones. I just liked what I saw from Matt Jones.
Right.
Yeah.
It lets you know he could take the load maybe.
Another guy that I loved, I tweeted about him last night, and Mike and I, you and I, we loved him pre-draft. I think it was before the NFL draft. We were talking him up.
Christian Michael?
Yes.
And then he didn't get drafted, and we were sad, and so we lamented. But that's Zach Zinner. Zach Zinner is a really good running back.
Detroit Lions.
Yeah, Detroit Lions. He went undrafted because he wasn't from, a Tier 1 school. And so he comes out and, he is really good. Last night, he had a 39-yard run called back. He I think, ran for
he ran the ball 4 times for 22 yards, and he had 5 catches for 59 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah. And he just looked exactly like he looked on his college tape, where his feet just go and go and go. I was talking about that with you yesterday. Now, here's the truth. When Joik comes back...
No fantasy relevance at all.
Yeah, when Joik comes back, then it's his job. And Zach Zinner won't even see the field.
Abdullah and Riddick, you're exactly right.
He
100%
won't be there. However, what it showed me was proof that against even ones in the NFL, Zach Zinner is what we thought he was. And should he get that opportunity, should Joik come back and get injured, Zach Zinner will be the guy who is going to share that workload with Amir Abdullah. They're not going to just put Theo Riddick out there.
Completely
so keep
agree.
Zach Zinner on your radar, and if Joik keeps having problems or for some reason comes back and gets injured, grab him. He will be good.
This is the first time in the history of this show that we've agreed about the Detroit Lions backfield.
Because my question for Andy was going to be, would you agree if Joik goes down that Zinner is going to get some early down work?
Yeah, I do. I do agree with that.
So we want to remind the Foot Clan, the listeners right now, of FantasyDraftWizard.com. You got to get those mock drafts in, people. You got to be ready for different situations. Fantasy Draft Wizard allows you to do a complete mock draft in just minutes because you're going up against expert ranking, consensus, ADP rankings, whatever you want to do, from drafting from any position, any size league, however you want to do it. But just get ready for these situations of your draft, how you're going to react. FantasyDraftWizard.com.
Yep, completely free, so hop on there. All right, let's talk tight ends.
Tight ends.
This is a important position that a lot of people don't want to deal with. Our general philosophy on tight ends, we'll go through that a little bit today. There are 20 in this list, but the way we break down where and how you draft these guys is what matters. So my goal is to not linger on the top names that you already know a lot about, and so we'll go through them fairly quickly. Number 1 is Rob Gronkowski. Not a surprise.
Shock the world.
Number 2 is Jimmy Graham. And these are consensus rankings for the three of us. So 1 is Gronkowski, 2 is Graham. If you might give us 10 seconds on Jimmy Graham in Seattle.
All right, so here's why I have concern of Jimmy Graham. Russell Wilson's never had a pass catcher over 900 yards, more than 7 touchdowns, or more than 66 receptions. Jimmy Graham is a volume guy. He's averaged 89, 1,100 yards, and 11 touchdowns in his career. So I just don't see Seattle moving their passing up enough to sustain those kinds of Graham numbers where you're going to have to take him.
And at the same time, he's number 2 on our list.
Well, he's number 2 because we think he can finish good, but for where he's being drafted, I can flat guarantee, and I'd put my house on it, that there's no league.
The loan sharks are coming.
There is no league that Jimmy Graham would be on any one of our teams. It'd be impossible for us to draft Jimmy Graham. Am I wrong?
If he doesn't catch 10 touchdowns, you're going to be very disappointed.
All right, and number 3 is Travis Kelce, a guy we've talked a lot about, and 4 is Greg Olsen.
And Greg Olsen has to be in that same group now. He moved from me. It was the 3 with including Kelsey and then kind of the field. And now Greg Olsen, because of the Kelvin Benjamin injury, has moved back up. Because what Greg Olsen did last year was awesome. He caught 1,000 yards, and I was expecting people to think he was going to do that again this year. And then I didn't expect him to. But with Kelvin Benjamin being gone and basically having a rewind of last year where there's a rookie coming in as your number 1 wide receiver, you have to have that safety valve, and it's going to be Olsen all day. So I think he does get 1,000 yards again this year.
If you're drafting right now, he will be a value. And for me, he's my number 2 in PPR because of the volume of catches and the dependency that Cam Newton's going to have on Olsen. You know, the reports, Funchess is ready to step into the number 1 role. Well, you've never done it. I mean, last year we kind of saw maybe the peak of a rookie coming into that exact same situation when Kelvin Benjamin came into a completely devoid wide receiver, depth chart.
And Kelvin Benjamin was a better college wide receiver, right, than Devin Funchess. So.
Right.
Don't tell Devin Funchess that.
Hey, bunches of Funchess. He's going to get bunches of touchdowns.
Yes, probably. But that's a discussion for another day.
I haven't bumped Greg Olsen as much as you guys. I still like Olsen. I'm just not sure that team's philosophy can get it through their head that if you run the offense through Greg Olsen, you're going to be successful. For some reason, even last year when they would have success, they would go away from it.
But 80-plus catches again. It should happen.
Yeah, very within reason, yes.
All right, and he has 4 for me in standard and 4 in our consensus rankings. I can't say that word very good.
So then that's kind of our tier, am I right? After Greg Olsen is kind of a drop-off to the next field. Would we say we're in a consensus on the tier there?
I think this is the point where we're starting to say just get value at tight end and get it late and kind of put guys in an order of who you want to draft late.
Yeah.
As opposed to, I mean, do you agree?
Yeah, draft-wise, I'm hoping desperately, and I don't expect this for either, but if either Travis Kelce or Greg Olsen could ever drop to the 6th, I'll grab him up and I will love it. At the very, very, very back end of the 5th, I might grab a Greg Olsen. I'm getting a little bit more leery of grabbing Kelce early in the 5th, just not because I don't think he's necessarily a value there, but you're still giving up a good wide receiver running back pick in the 5th round, and so I haven't liked my rosters as well. In the 6th, if I can get either one of those guys, I love it. If not, I am really waiting. The one thing when we were making these rankings that showed to me was like there are 20 tight ends that I am fine rolling out there week 1. And, I mean, how many get drafted?
And that's why we like playing Jason.
I got a question for you guys. Kelce has been going before Olsen. Do you think Olsen gets enough of a bump now to surpass Kelce in ADP?
I think it happens in a lot of leagues.
Yeah.
Yes. And it probably should. Because from the perspective, depending on your risk kind of tolerance on a team, you might want Olsen more than Kelce. All the potential in the world, looks great on paper, and Kelce looks great, but you don't know for sure, and you know what Olsen's going to give you. So depending on your team's makeup, maybe that's what decides between those guys.
Yeah, I would agree that Olsen may be safer, but Kelce's ceiling is much higher to me, especially in touchdowns.
I agree. So at 5 and 6, we have the tried and true Jason Witten.
Iron Man Witten. Yes.
And then we have Martellus Bennett. A lot of people like Bennett, and when I get asked about Bennett, I kind of point back to before last year, where he had an average of about 60 catches. Last year, you had Trestman running the show. So which season do we need to rely on for Bennett? Is it the 90 reception year? I mean, Kevin White's out. There's no Brandon Marshall. That's the argument for Bennett.
I have split the difference a little bit. I go back to where he was because it's going to be a much more conservative offense. It's not going to be a Trestman offense, but because Marshall's left, I give him a bump from where he used to be pre-Trestman. So it kind of splits the difference. Like I think I've got him about 70 or 75 catches.
So this is what I've broken down. John Fox teams without Peyton Manning, because clearly Peyton Manning has a little bit more say and he runs the show and he likes his tight end. John Fox teams without Peyton Manning, average 47 targets.
Oof.
And that's including a year with Jeff King, who got 80 targets. And then you look at teams where Jay Cutler did not have Mark Trestman, averaged 64 targets. That includes over 100 targets to Olsen in 2009. So the history would show that these two teams, a Jay Cutler run team and a John Fox run team, does not heavily target the tight end. I will say Martellus Bennett's probably up there in talent far more than what they're used to having, but I have great concern for Bennett, especially where he's being drafted.
All right, let's move on to 3 guys that are kind of in the maybe category.
Yes.
Jordan Cameron, Tyler Eifert, and Zach Ertz come in at 7, 8, 9. Maybe.
Yes, very much.
Yeah, they're
very much on. Sorry, it's very much on Jordan Cameron for me. Jordan Cameron has slowly creeped back up my rankings. I have him number 5 in both, and the reason is touchdowns. Ryan Tannehill likes to use his. Yes, he does. Look at the years with Charles Clay. He likes to use his tight end, and the red zone presence. Mike Wallace caught a whole bunch of red zone touchdowns. Those are gone, and I wouldn't be shocked to see some other receivers get in there, but I think the biggest beneficiary of that absence is Jordan Cameron.
And this is why these guys are all maybes, because you can kind of make a case for them. You can make a strong case for each of them that they're going to have a breakout year. Cameron's going to a new offense. I think he's a lot different than Charles Clay at the tight end position.
I think he's more talented.
He might be more talented, but they're going to use him differently too. But yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. There's a lot of red zone targets available. Eifert, healthy, no Gresham. There's your argument. Zach Ertz, all the potential in the world. If he could just block and stay healthy. If he could block and stay healthy, he was as high as number 5 in my rankings earlier this offseason before injury and blocking. So this is why we say draft him later. Well, I'm fine waiting for 2/3 of these guys to be gone and taking one in the 10th round.
Yeah,
Right.
well, you've got Zach Ertz right now, who's being drafted in the 10th round. You've got Tyler Eifert, who's being drafted in the 11th round.
Ooh, love it.
So, I mean, and Jordan Cameron in the 8th. We like these guys, and the thing is there's a lot of guys who we didn't just mention, like Julius Thomas, who are going way above these guys. That why spend a draft pick that's going to be, a 6th or 7th rounder on a guy like Julius Thomas when there are guys way later who have every opportunity to surpass the guys earlier. It just it's clear logic.
Agree, and you're passing a really good depth for your bench in the wide receiver or running back position. If you go early on tight end, you are not going to be happy with the results of your tight end unless you get the one guy right there. Can we agree that they're probably in that area? There'll be one guy who explodes, and that person is extremely happy. But everyone else is going to be very upset as they go through the waiver wire trying to get a matchup-dependent tight end.
I think these next 3 guys fit more into the ho-hum tight end category, where you have 10 Julius Thomas, 11 Larry Donnell, and 12 Heath Miller. They're probably going to all get it done.
One way or another, yeah.
One way or another. Heath Miller is perennially underrated because he's not flashy. He's not Gronkowski. He's just kind of a target, and Big Ben buys time in the pocket and finds Heath Miller. He had 88 targets last year. He catches about 750 yards, and he kind of does. I mean, he's Baby Witten.
Yeah, that's
in a lot of ways.
Good analogy.
So talk to me about Thomas. We know he's been injured, and he's coming out of Peyton Manning and a team that was always on the goal line. He was never really a high yardage guy. So does Julius have potential in Jacksonville?
Potential, yes, because he's a gifted athlete. But here's my problem with Julius Thomas. 2013, he averaged 56 yards a game. 2014, averaged 38 yards per game. Why was he so great? Why did everyone love him? 12 touchdowns every year. While we like Blake Bortles, we think he can be a good quarterback. Do we think he's going to throw 12 touchdowns to the tight end?
That's the hard connection.
Are the Jaguars going to throw 12 touchdowns to tight end and running back and, combined? No, of course not.
Yeah, last year, so it's Bortles' first year, so take that into account. But Clay Harbor, Mercedes Lewis, the main tight ends on that team, combined for 66 targets.
Targets, not receptions.
Targets.
That's ridiculously low. And I think, Julius Thomas has never been a volume guy, right? He got 40 passes last year. It's just a quarter of them were for touchdowns. So, and you've got a broken finger. So it does make it a little bit more difficult to catch a ball with a broken finger.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, yeah.
How would you know?
I would do it because I'm very good.
All right, 13, 14, 15. Dwayne Allen, Vernon Davis, and Coby Fleener.
Wow, Vernon Davis.
I was going to say, even though Vernon's at 14, we're probably surprising a lot of people if you're looking at other cheat sheets.
And this is you, Andy. So you've got him up at 11. We've got him down at 18 and 19. So speak Vernon Davis. I know you've got Colin Kaepernick love and belief. So
part of it is the belief that Colin Kaepernick is going to be throwing the ball more, and that he's lost weapons there, that the defense has lost so many pieces. They're going to be just in games throwing. Part of it is because Vernon Davis has athletically and in fantasy shown us he can be an elite tight end.
13 touchdowns in a season before?
Absolutely, and he's had big time years, and a couple of those have come when people have wondered, well, is he going to have a good year? And another piece is Vernon was hurt last year. And so the question is, does he come back and does he have the same athleticism, the same ability to be a Pro Bowl caliber tight end or not? That's the gamble you take. But at where you're getting Vernon Davis, I'll take the gamble happily, because it's going to be with probably the second to last pick of my draft, or third to last pick.
So speaking to Dwayne Allen he's actually kind of like Julius Thomas on the Broncos, where he doesn't get a high volume of targets. Last year, only 50 targets, but 8 touchdowns. And sometimes what you're looking for in a tight end streamer, because so many of them are touchdown dependent, why not take a gamble on a guy like Dwayne Allen, where it's going to be all or nothing. You either get the touchdown, you're happy, or you don't. But for a guy who that's what he does, you could throw him out there week to week and maybe
he's
get a return.
He's probably going to average half a touchdown, which means somewhere around there, finish the year with about 7 or 8 touchdowns. So that means you've got a pretty good shot. And really, the truth is, we haven't talked streaming tight ends, but that's what I generally do. If I don't have one of the absolute top guys, I'm going to play matchups, because there are a lot of indicators on a week to week that actually show good matchups for tight ends. Some teams just don't know how to guard tight ends.
Completely agree, but Dwayne Allen and Coby Fleener aren't my favorite streamer picks, because they're almost back-to-back in our rankings. I don't like deciding between which Indianapolis Colts tight end is going to have the big game.
Yeah, I can
because you're already
understand.
When you play streamers, you're playing numbers anyway. You're saying, I hope this matchup works out, and now you're saying, I hope my tight end of the 2 tight ends works out.
Yeah, so, I get that. It's just a matter of when you stream, you look for touchdowns. That's one of the things you're going to look for the most.
Good
potential
offenses.
touchdowns. Yeah. And obviously, even with Fleener there, you still have that with Allen. But I think that's a good point. And generally, one of them goes down for a minor injury here or there. Mm-hmm. If either goes down, stream the other.
So in this next group of guys, I'm going to try to figure out which one of you is responsible for him being in our consensus rankings. But 16, 17, 18, and 16, 17, 18 are Delanie Walker, Josh Hill, and Antonio Gates. Josh Hill is he's the lowest ranked tight end, or one of the lower ranked tight ends on my top 30. So who's responsible for this?
I still have him at 13 and 12 currently.
Is he? You have him where?
13 in PPR and 12 in standard.
Defend yourself.
Touchdowns, my man. I understand that Ben Watson.
So identical to Dwayne Allen's situation.
Yes.
Okay.
And tight ends, you don't have to do very much to become a tight end one. And
so where's Ben Watson for you?
He's not there, and this is why. Listen, Ben Watson, I understand that he's the starter and he's probably going to get more playing time. I still think Josh Hill will get more targets and more touchdowns. Last year, Josh Hill...
What do you have, 6?
He had 5.
Oh,
he had 5. 1 out of every 4 passes was a touchdown for Josh Hill.
Yeah.
And he'll get a little bit more looks because clearly Jimmy Graham is gone. I don't think he's where we were looking and we were hoping that Josh Hill is going to be a week-to-week dependable plug-in guy, and you just leave him there, you set it, you forget it. I don't think he will be that. He will be hit and miss, just like all these guys we're talking about right now are hit and miss.
Yeah, I had him just outside a tight end 1 because of what you're saying, Mike, but I actually am believing that Coleman over there is going to take a little bit more away, from Josh Hill. So I've got him down at 17. He's got touchdown opportunities, got Drew Brees Hall of Fame quarterback.
You're right, Mike. You're right. There's why not? Why not Josh Hill? Why not Rudolph? Why not any of these guys from week to week around the goal line? And at least in New Orleans, it's a good offense with a good quarterback who does throw around the goal line.
Exactly. So what I think needs to be explained is Antonio Gates at 18? What are you guys doing?
What's wrong with that?
4 games suspension?
Yeah, but he's great. And there are many more games in the season. And we're talking 18. I'll take Antonio Gates and stream somebody the first few weeks because I feel like when he comes back, he's just going to be Antonio Gates.
I think he will do that. But if if we're statting them out on 16 games and you take those away, which is exactly what I did on my numbers, I believe in Gates, and he dropped, just, taking out, a quarter of the season, he dropped to 27 in my list. I think right now, Andy, you still have him at 10.
How many touchdowns do you have for Antonio Gates? Because that's completely what he was. He would give you huge games of...
I think probably 8.
Yeah, so last year he had 12, right? So that's why he was so good. And let's hypothesize here. You think that as soon as Antonio Gates comes back, he's inserted right back in the starting lineup, which I don't have
1,000,000% yes.
I don't have a problem with. What happens though if Ladarius Green is on fire for 4 games?
I don't care. I don't care about that hypothetical. There's enough guys that are those type of hypotheticals to me that I don't care about.
And Ladarius Green, let's be honest, it's like, ooh, he finally gets an opportunity. No, it's not his final opportunity. He's had opportunity for years.
Who did they
it's
just sign to a 4-year contract?
Yeah, it's
Antonio Gates and Phillip Rivers. When they're together, until the wheels fall off, which people thought have happened, and maybe it happens this year, but 12 touchdowns last year says Phillip Rivers looks to Antonio Gates around the goal line. So for me, I kind of feel like we're arguing for the touchdown potential of these other guys. He's already got like 10 years of proving it.
Okay, so, that's fair. So are you drafting and holding Antonio Gates anywhere?
I am drafting Antonio Gates at the end of the draft and holding him, yeah.
Really? You're going to let a tight end clog up a bench spot for 4 games?
Yeah, I can say that I won't be doing that. I'll be... Because I don't think most other people will. I'm going to grab him off the waivers.
You'll have to have 2 tight ends at that point.
Yeah, maybe.
Depends on my league, completely. 5 bench spots, maybe not. 6 or above, yeah, I probably do. Okay. Because if it's a free tight end, because that's what he'll be, because most people aren't going to draft him. I'm not going to reach for Antonio Gates, don't get me wrong. I just think, where do I have him ranked? In 10. The top 12.
Yeah.
I'll take a top 12 tight end with the last pick in the draft and hold him a few weeks.
Sure.
And, he can get himself healthy.
Yeah, he gets 4 games to be healthy.
All right,
He doesn't get his magical juice to be healthy, though.
Well,
well,
he vehemently denies any wrongdoing, doesn't he?
Don't they always?
His test says otherwise.
I know. All right, Owen Daniels.
Yes.
Owen Daniels at 19, Charles Clay at 20.
We need to talk Owen Daniels.
Both are in the if I'm trying to categorize all these guys, these are both I don't know.
No, I disagree. So let me put it this way: on our rankings right now, Andy, you've had to defend yourself a couple times, but Owen Daniels,
defend yourself.
I'm not surprised.
But right now, you
I have a lot of foresight. I can kind of see beyond my own hand in front of my face, so yeah. I have to defend myself a lot.
Owen Daniels, you both have at 24.
Foster will be fine. I'm going to get him in all my leagues. This was all part of a master plan, Fantasy Reaper.
The Fantasy Reaper strikes.
That's right.
To gain value.
I wasn't going to get him.
Yeah.
I had talked him up so much, everyone was drafting him number 1. Now I can get him.
It's the long play.
That's right.
Anyways, with Owen Daniels, you guys both have him equal at 24, which wouldn't have even made our consensus top 20, and I've got him at 12. I've got him in the back of tight end 1. I think it's kind of crazy. I went back and looked and watched some film and looked at Virgil Green, who has really, truly done absolutely nothing from a receiving standpoint in his entire career. And Peyton Manning is a guy who has always used his tight end. Owen Daniels has a great history of catching over 50 balls and putting up good yards. He's always been with Kubiak, and he's never played with a guy like Peyton. Julius Thomas leaves and some of those touchdowns. I just think there's opportunity here in an offense where you're the starting tight end for a guy that uses tight ends with a coach that uses tight ends. It's crazy to me to think 24th tight end.
I have no problem with where I have him.
Yeah, there's no possibility he finishes.
He hasn't played in Denver. He hasn't played in Denver before. He's been injured a lot. Virgil Green has looked good so far, and he's been targeted frequently. Peyton Manning has a history of using other tight ends. When Dallas Clark was there, Jacob Tamm, he still caught passes. Those type of situations took place. These are the things that factor into it for me. I don't disagree. He could surprise. He could be great.
I don't think it's a surprise. That's my point. I think it's
why wouldn't it be a surprise
when
he hasn't played in Denver yet?
But he's played with Kubiak his entire career.
And he's had down seasons with Kubiak before, too.
He's had injured seasons where he misses the whole season.
He's had seasons where he hasn't produced very well.
This is what I'll say about Owen Daniels. I'm with Andy. I have him ranked low.
I mean, 48 catches last year with Kubiak. What's the story with that?
With Joe Flacco.
What was his number?
There's a big difference.
Okay.
Well, no,
it's fine. It's fine.
50 catches. I'm saying if you just stat him out.
This is what you get on the Fantasy Footballers. We are not groupthink people who just agree with one another, for goodness sakes.
Take a side, people.
Yeah, we give you the information, and you get to decide, hey, I think this logic is right or this logic is wrong.
Mike, which side are you on?
I have him
because
ranked.
he's never caught more. He hasn't caught 70 passes since 2008.
I have him getting 55 receptions this year.
If I have him ranked low, but if I'm waiting till the end of the draft and let's say I'm looking at guys, it's Hill, Clay, the guys that we have in this consensus area, Hill, Gates, Daniels, Clay, I'm going to take Daniels because his upside is there.
That's
now,
fine.
All of this said, we have to remember, and I cannot say this enough for our listeners, we get so crazy about the draft, right? Especially, we're talking tight ends today, and the truth is, you will not win your championship on draft day unless it's a best ball league. You will not. And especially when it comes to tight ends, those are guys where you need to know how to pick your matchups, how to do your matchups. So really, don't get crazy caught up with who you're going to draft and that your draft is your end all be all. Keep listening after the draft. Our goal is to have the Foot Clan win the most championships in leagues out there, and we just know that doesn't happen at the draft. That happens in the season. So keep listening. Don't go crazy about I messed up in the draft or I won it at the draft.
And so we're helping you guys with the knowledge. Please help us by going to podsurvey.com/footballers. Fill that survey out. It helps us get good sponsors so we can keep the show. We can keep the lights on.
Well, and the truth is we're going 5 days a week now.
Wait, what? You're putting that on tape?
Yeah, I mean 1 week of 4. We broke into the season. We're going 5 a week. It's already locked in.
The Foot Clan wants it. The Foot
already
Clan
done.
gets it.
I'm going to 3.
Monday, 2. Well, you only show up for 2 or 3 of them anyway. So.
Hey, so I want to physically change it.
All right, speaking of the Foot Clan, let's take some time today to answer listener questions. We get a lot of them. Let's answer them on the show and see if we can help some people out.
Mailbag.
All right, if you have a question, you can go to our website, thefantasyfootballers.com. Click the Submit a Question button. It appears in front of our eyes.
Why are you the K-Jazz voice now? go to thefantasyfootballers.com.
It's the sitting back in the chair versus sitting up in the chair. When I sit back, the voice changes.
Deep.
You can also call us at
when you're
302
Need some nice romantic music behind that.
TFFB.
When you get heated, we just say you should probably lean back right now.
Exactly.
Just
sit back.
relax.
Sit back in your chair. Talk about Owen Daniels with some sense. All right, Steve from Behind Enemy Lines.
Ooh.
You remember that movie?
I was just gonna say Owen Daniels action movie.
Owen Daniels?
Wait, did I say Owen Wilson? Too many football guys.
Oh, that's
I want to see Owen Daniels.
No,
in an action movie.
here's something that people don't know. Owen Daniels was a cameo in that movie.
Oh, right.
Go watch the tape.
Just go watch it real
watch it.
carefully.
He's really there.
All right, last year,
Behind
Jarek...
Enemy Lines movies are spiking right now.
Yeah, Steve has a question about McKinnon and Peterson, and he makes kind of a good point. Last year, Jerick McKinnon was drafted before Peterson went MIA, before everything went down. So does this mean that they had plans for him in a Shane Vereen, Gio Bernard type of role? How much does that take away from Peterson's value in a running back, receiving-friendly Norv Turner offense?
Takes nothing away because he wasn't drafted to be a gadget guy. He was drafted to be a handcuff. He was drafted in case AP goes down. He's a valuable replacement. And I got no problem doing that again this year. I mean, if you did it last year, you can do it this year. I don't think he's one of those have-to-own handcuffs because I do think if AP goes down, we saw what happens last year. They're going to more committee it.
Yeah, you have to look out for Asiata screwing people over with his 3 touchdown games.
The goal line games.
Oh man, he is the worst / best fantasy player.
He's
of
the
all time.
Larry Donnell of the running back position.
Yeah, just you got to get it once, and you're gonna think he's the best.
But that's for fantasy. Those guys get headlines then for the rest of the year. When you put up a 3 touchdown game. Mm-hmm. All right, Josh from Richmond, Virginia wants to know. He said, with Kelvin Benjamin out for the year and Devin Funchess being inexperienced, would Cam Newton's quarterback 1 value be gone? So what do you guys think? Jason's kind of shaking his head with like a frowny face.
No, I did move. I moved him down 1 spot in my rankings, but he's still going to be a quarterback 1.
What makes Cam Newton valuable?
His legs, they're so beautiful and toned. But he's going to be able to work them out now all the more when no wide receiver is open, and he's going to run the ball.
I hear he uses Nair.
Ooh.
He goes hairless to make those
Is
muscles.
this a new advertisement? Did we get
No,
Nair?
we do not have Nair. We would not take Nair.
No,
we
I
are
would.
handsome fancy. and you would take Nair and
No.
Handsome Fancy?
We wouldn't take Nair. You want to know why? I don't know that the Foot Clan knows this, but we're pretty selective with our advertisers. We actually want to make sure we use them and have
I'll tell
good
you right now,
products.
Nair wouldn't take us after this discussion.
That's true.
They
Won't
would
have
for
you,
me.
Nair.
It's going to be the fantasyhitman.com Nair special.
What, you taking the beard off?
No. You don't
You
Nair
shaving
your-
the legs?
Have you ever put Nair on your face?
I've never put Nair
used
anywhere.
What a stupid question, Mike. Have you ever put Nair on your... Well, I've never owned Nair.
Okay, well, you guys need to Nair your arms sometime, see what happens.
Wait, so you have used Nair?
Yeah, because you get slippery like a seal.
All right, let's move this along.
Here's the deal. You guys don't have tattoos on your arms.
This is absolutely true.
When you have tattoos on your arms, you want them to pop. You got to take that hair off. That's
All right.
that's a trade secret.
Wait for our Nair affiliate link before you go buy your Nair.
You know, this
listeners.
seems like a good time to go to a voicemail question. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm in a 10-team standard league, and I'm wondering who I should keep. I got either Odell Beckham Jr., Mike Evans, or C.J. Anderson, all in the 10th round. Thanks.
Very nice. Keep all three, and they're going to say, no, I can only keep one. And you're going to be like, no, I can keep three.
You can't get over slippery by like a seal. Because that's an attribute I want as a man, to be slippery like a seal. All right, ODB, Mike Evans, or C.J. Anderson with the 10th round pick. I think what we're all staring down here is C.J. or ODB. In the 10th, for me, it's C.J. Anderson.
Me too.
If it's a keep forever, like let's say you get to keep on. What?
Through his retirement, through...
No, you know what I mean. Like, because we all love Anderson this year. We don't know about next year, where Beckham can be an all-star for his career.
It is a fair point.
And
sure.
if you have him in a 10th round for his career, I'd lean Beckham.
Cool.
There you go. All right, let's do another voicemail.
What's up, guys? It's Kyle. So in a PPR league, I'm looking at finding a late round wide receiver to kind of finish out my group, somebody with some high upside. Somebody I'm looking at rounds 12 and 13. So which of these wide receivers would you want most on a PPR league team? Brian Quick, Marcus Wheaton, Eddie Royal, or Stevie Johnson? Which of those four would you guys take? Thanks.
I'd
Let's-
go Royale with cheese. Just gonna throw mine out.
I'm with you, and I was going to say we should maybe order those guys for people just so they kind of see where we have them. It's Eddie Royal for me, and then it is actually Stevie Johnson, Brian Quick, and Marcus Wheaton.
I go Royal, Wheaton, Stevie, Quick.
Okay.
Royal, Stevie, who's the other tip?
Whitten and Quick.
Man. Whatever. Royal, Stevie. That's all.
So
those are
ring
only guys I'm
the
taking.
bell for Royal then. We all agree on that, right?
All right.
And that's what, when I say ring the bell, you have to hit the bell.
The bell has not been placed.
Wait, where's the bell? Fair enough. All right, there we go. No one could hear it. Daryl from Canada says he has Dez, Demarius, and Hilton in a 3-receiver scoring league, and he has a trade question. Should he trade? Keep in mind that's who he has: Dez, Demarius, and Hilton. Hilton and Morris for Cooper and Ingram.
Read that again. Hilton and Morris.
Hilton and Morris for Cooper, Amari Cooper, and Mark Ingram. And I read that, and
No.
I could argue both ways.
I'll argue the no side.
I
Who wants
think
to take the
that's probably where I go. I would say don't do it. Or, there's not enough benefit here for you.
Yeah, I like Cooper. He's all right, but you know what you have in Hilton, and he's great. And maybe Ingram will be better than Morris. I think I've got him ahead of Morris, but maybe Morris is ahead of Ingram. I'm very confident T.Y. Hilton will beat Cooper this year, even though I like Cooper. And so I always want the best guy in a trade. So
When I see this, I say, meh. Like, why make the trade?
Yeah,
Why do it?
Yeah, I can see that.
But his perspective is he thinks he will strengthen his running back core.
I like
That's
the
the
idea.
logic behind it.
The logic of trading T.Y. Hilton here, who's your third best wide receiver on a team, which is great, for an improved running back. I love that, but I just don't. I don't feel like Mark Ingram is a guaranteed improvement over Alfred Morris, worth giving up T.Y. Hilton.
Because he has Lamar Miller and Jay Stu. I don't know if we mentioned that part, but he has Miller and Stewart. I don't need Ingram. I'm fine with Morris, so I'll keep T.Y. Hilton.
Yep. All right. So we all agree on that one. All right. Reminder, everybody, check out fantasydraftwizard.com for all your mock draft needs. We've got 5 shows for you next week. 5.
Uno, dos, tres, cinco, cuatro. No, I don't know Spanish.
My goodness.
tres.
How good did I get? Uno,
Here's
dos, tres,
Cuatro, cinco.
Here's the best part of this. I thought that my Nair comment will be the worst part of the show.
Nope.
Uno,
Thank you.
dos, tres, cuatro, cinco.
Thank
I
you,
did it. I did
Jason.
it right.
Thank
You
you.
did it so wrong in so many ways. Hey, we got draft day tricks, risers and fallers, preseason week 2 next week. Join us back on Monday. Thanks for listening,
So
everybody.
much good stuff.
Goodbye.
Uno, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco.
Thank you for listening to another edition of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Don't forget to visit us on the web at www.thefantasyfootballers.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.